what you're thinking. I'm pretty sweaty. And you'd be right. See, the thing is that I just spent 2 hours out in the 80-degree weather in the middle of October with that coat. You don't know what I'm talking about. It's the coat that I wear playing Chuck Greene in Chuck Greene 105 West, which might quite possibly be the greatest movie of all time. And there's one thing for sure. That's a fact. Coming from me. Now, what I'm here for today is to give you some more background information so we get a better grade on this project. I mean, give you some background information about where we filmed. The first place we filmed was in Saskatchewan, Canada. Now, the thing about Saskatchewan, besides its odd name, is the plants and animals that inhabit Saskatchewan. See, there are things like reindeer moss, dragon's mouth. Now, do you know what's interesting about where we shot in Saskatchewan, Canada? The plants and animals. Things like dragon's mouth and reindeer moss. And I got a little fact for you. Reindeer moss, it's not even moss, it's a lichen. Well, that's pretty interesting. I'm liking that fact right there. Woo! All right, I mean, come on guys, give me some of that. Thank you, sir. Now, what's special about reindeer moss is that it can live in cold and, wait for it, hot climates as well. Now that's pretty interesting, if I think so, and I do. Okay, now the thing about dragon's mouth is, it's not very active in pollination. Because, if your name dragon's mouth, he wants to pollinate with you. I mean, but when it does pollinate, it flowers. And it starts to begin growing little leaves. That's an early dragon's. Okay, this is so bad. Reindeer moss, spreading dogbane, round leaf orchid, dragon's mouth, reindeer moss. These are the plants that live in Saskatchewan, Canada. Hi, I'm Ben Nussey. I helped write, create, produce, and edit the most amazing movie of all time, Chuck Greene, 105 West. Now, back to Saskatchewan. Now, besides the plants that live there, the animals are also interesting. I mean, they're pretty big. Things like the mule deer, the white-tailed deer, the little brown bat, and the western moose. I mean, it is Canada. They all got moose there. Pretty cool. Now, the thing about the western moose is that it eats a lot of vegetation. And when you eat a lot of vegetation, you might not get your sustenance you need. You're wrong. The western moose eats about 10,000 frickin' calories a day. Do you eat that many? No, you don't. Wrong. And the little brown bat, yeah, he's little. He'll eat you though. That's not true. He eats little bugs. I mean, when you eat little bugs all day, you can survive, especially if you're a little brown bat, little guy. And he likes to go look for his food near water. He might stop by and grab a drink. And that's really cool. And I think I honestly think that's really cool, because especially if you're like a little bat, and all you can do is just eat little bugs. I mean, you might as well go by the river. And it's also said that they like to hide in the foliage near there, so they can surprise the bugs. And they have 3 types of places where they can mate, sleep, and that all varies on, that all depends on how they're feeling. Well, after I'm done talking about Saskatchewan, I'll talk about New Mexico. I'll Saskatch you later. Hi, welcome back. I'm here to inform you about the foliage and fauna of New Mexico. See, the thing about the foliage in New Mexico is it's pretty interesting. got some good history. It's got some good attributes, some adaptations. Like the ponderosa pine, for instance. You might be thinking, that's just a pine tree. Why is that important? Because, well, while it is the national tree of Montana, it was also used in nuclear testing. See, the thing is, a group of people gathered up around 145 ponderosa pines, brought them to Area 5, and yes, that is a place, and launched a nuke at it. And they were burnt to crisp, like toast that was left in a toaster for about 5 years on full blast. So, non-existent. And the creosote bush. The creosote bush has a very scientific name. I'm going to try to pronounce it. Laurea tridentata. I'm not sure if that's right, but hey, I'm Chuck Greene. I can do whatever I want. The thing about the Laurea tridentata is that it can live up to 90 years old. And you know, some trees live up to that age. It's not a tree, it's a plant. About yay big. It's a long time for a plant. And it's used, you know, well, to get crescent. It's pretty good. And it is found in, you know, plains biomes, especially if they're well drained. Because these kind of plants need to be well drained. They can't have water build up, or else it'll kind of mess them up. And that's really sad, but, you know, if they're well drained, Laurea tridentata it is. Hi, welcome back. Now, as for the fauna of New Mexico, we'll talk about two specific animals in particular. The great roadrunner, that one, and the western wild turkey. Now, the thing about the roadrunner is that it doesn't look anything like it does in the cartoon. And there's no coyote named Wiley coming after it. There's probably some other coyote, but not Wiley. It doesn't exist, it's a cartoon. They can go up to be 2 feet long from, you know, little beak to their tail. And they can run fast. Faster than a human, in fact. And with that speed comes the ability to kill a rattlesnake. Which is pretty awesome, considering it's a bird. As for the western wild turkey, it's different in many ways to its cousin, the domestic turkey. One, Thanksgiving. I eat domestic turkey. I don't want my turkey wild. I don't like that game taste. It's not my thing. But on a more important note, wild turkeys can fly, which is pretty cool. And they might have big bodies, you know. They may not look like they can fly, but they can. They're actually pretty agile at it too, which is pretty cool. It also feeds on nuts, lots of nuts. Acorn, hickory, a bunch of different types of stuff. I think it's really cool, you know, turkey eating nuts. It's not eating nobody. Maybe like pecking at some grain, but that's chicken. Just doing its thing. I respect that. Because when I was going through these scenes, I had to really embody these kind of things. I had to think about these things. It was a big deal for me because, you know, going out to New Mexico, paying for plane tickets, it was tough. Not to mention, I got to meet Ted Turner. He's a pretty nice guy. I mean, like, it got to a point where I was talking Southern, and you'll see that, but it was bad. I got Southern. Yeah, Ted Turner's a great guy. On a more serious note, I would like to thank Cole Smith, Will Pyle, Chris Barkley, and Ian Copeland. See, they helped us out in a time of need in this project. I really respect that. Just in case you didn't know, Ted Turner, it's not actually Ted Turner, it's Will Pyle. Duh. Director Hydro, that's not a name, it's Ian Copeland. He's a legend. Oscar-winning legend. Yeah, suck on that, Leonardo DiCaprio. And Cole Smith, yeah, he's Canadian, except he's not. He's American. He just acts really well. Chris Barkley, I don't even know what the crap he is. He did a good job. You did a good job, Chris. I'm talking to you. I'm gonna put this in the video because I'm looking right at you right now. That's right, Chris. I'm watching you. Yeah, this is weird. It's cool. I've always wanted to feel that feeling, you know? When you're talking to someone in the future. It's pretty great. I can see the future too. We're gonna get an A on this project. There's the one. Yeah, I'm gonna pass this on to Alec Guthrie.
Hi, I'm actor Alec Guthrie. I'm also a director for our new film, Greene, Case 105 West. So, I really think that if you look on the surface of it, you won't see all of the exact explicit details that it has. It really is a heartwarming story once you go into the depth. You go below the veneer of the epidermis and you really dig into the photosynthetic tissue of the elephant tree, which is actually very interesting because while we were shooting on location in Sinaloa, Mexico, we got to see some of the rare elephant trees. And these plants, you see, they have very thick trunks, and with that, they have a very pale bark. It's not very strong, but it grows very well in the desert. Many researchers didn't actually believe that it existed, and people were very skeptical of it because it is that rare, but we got to see it. And it actually can only grow up to 10 feet, which is not what you imagine for a towering tree. It's just, I feel bad for the poor guy. Hi, I'm producer Alec Guthrie, back at you again with the very knowledgeable anecdotes on botany and zoology. So, I may be a filmmaker, but that doesn't mean that I can't appreciate the bougainvillea, which is a flowering plant which grows on a vine and has hooks on it so that it may grow up the trunk or other base of another plant. So there are many cacti or trees which will commonly be growing in the rainforest of the tropical regions. But mainly, because we're focusing on Sinaloa, Mexico, it would be something like the elephant tree, which I previously mentioned, or the pitaya cactus, which it's another interesting case because it produces a very sweet fruit to attract some of the other bats and birds that will scour across the desert. But it also can grow to some heights, not as much as other cacti, but it doesn't have a very strong base, so it will flop over or kind of lean as it branches off and begins to grow and flower. Buzzards are a very common bird within the desert biome. Because there aren't many animals to feed off of other than some mere rats, or not rats, what are they? Mice? Moles? Prairie dogs? Gophers? Something like that. Whatever grows in the desert, we can cut that. So buzzards adapted to eat the carcasses of dead animals. So when something dies in the desert, in the heat, it will circle around it and dive down to eat that very animal. I personally am anti-buzzards. I think they are cruel. Mangrove, it's a very interesting one. It can grow in many climates, but it will have roots that are above the ground because it can grow in water, it can grow in many places, so it really digs deep down. But along the coast of Mexico, in the same place, Sinaloa, Mexico, less in the desert, but animals like coyotes, Mexican mouse possum, iguanas, tiliquaches, Mexican possums. Well, it's good to have you back. I'm Alec Guthrie, your favorite producer, actor, writer, artist for this film. So, you may be wondering, how does he play Victor Smog in such depth, with such genuine character? Well, I'm not going to answer that because a magician never reveals his secrets, you know what I mean? So now we will talk about exactly what the meat of this project is, and that is Antarctica Pearl Wort. So this right here, it's not just like your everyday hair grass that you may be thinking of, that grows between rocks in the coastal regions. It's very similar to that, but actually, it has some nice little flowers. They're about that big, and you know, it's a nice little flower. It's a pale yellow thing. But really, it serves an important part of the ecosystem in Antarctica, which my character, Victor Smog, wanted to destroy, which is tragic, because I think that the Antarctic Pearl Wort is just a beautiful being, you know. But another really important part of the ecosystem is something that has many names, in fact. Ceratodon purpureus, which is also known as redshank, Ceratodon moss, purple fork moss, fire moss, and purple horn-toothed moss. And this is because it actually comes in a variety of colors. It can be red, like the fire or redshank, but it can also be in a purple or a yellow, which I'm not totally sure why that is. It just wants to show off its colors. I appreciate the self-expression there. Now, you may be thinking of your regular everyday moss, your boring mosses that you might find in Saskatchewan, Canada, but I actually study important mosses that have little things coming off of them. I'm not sure what those things are. I assume they're flowers or seeds or something like that. But it's a very interesting looking at moss. But the real important thing about it is it actually produces fertilizers in the soil. So it helps the soil itself for the other plants of Antarctica. And it has a very aromatic pollen, so it will attract many pollinators, and it really helps its survival in Antarctica when there's not such an abundance of ways to reproduce. Now, next, have you ever heard of the emperor penguin? Maybe not. Have you ever heard of March of the Penguin, or perhaps Happy Feet, or perhaps Happy Feet 2? These are emperor penguins, which they are the dominant penguin in Antarctica. And these will, they carry eggs like in a waddle like that. It's hard to really get it when you're not an emperor penguin, you know? But they have an interesting life. They have a beautiful life. Getting across the Antarctica ice, they have to, you know, pat their way to freedom from the seals. I'm trying to think of a predator in Antarctica, but I can't.
Lion seal.
Lion seal.
Leopard seal, sorry.
Leopard seal. Tiger seal.
That last one's not real.
I know. Doing some character research for this, and also research for writing this, because it was hard to write such complex dialogue for this, but I was really inspired by the muse that really sparked everything, and that was the Antarctic midge, which is a very long insect. I'm not sure what it does. It's a long old crooked thing. I don't know. It's a nice looking insect. I love him. I love that midge. I love you. Basically, they're like roaches, but not like roaches because they can survive in Antarctica and they're insects. And, you know, I don't know about insects, so I'm just gonna generalize. There you go. Weddell seals. These are some really good seals. These will actually be killed by their fellow country seals and also be killed by many killer whales and such things, which I didn't know personally. So when they're swimming around in the Southern Ocean, they, you know, we don't have to have the threat of swimming around in pools and getting eaten. Why should they? Oh wait, actually, I really need to get to one more point. So there is one very interesting animal of the Antarctic region is the wandering albatross. So this bird has a wider wingspan than any other thing. So just picture, like, you know, like you couldn't see it in this frame because, you know, it's a big flap. It's a really big flap. Like, oh no, is the flap over here? No, it's 12 feet away because it's an albatross. Anyways, the wandering albatross. So this is a very large bird. So it can fly pretty long distances across the Antarctic Peninsula and also across the ocean, which is very necessary when it's so much ice. But really here, we're trying to get to the point of what it does. And I don't really know what it does. Apparently it's very good at removing salt from its body. Who knew? But really, the major adaptation of this bird, it's pretty big. Hey guys, remember that wandering albatross? It also nests in the grasslands of Antarctica, not in the very frosty parts. Sorry about that. But also, it tends to live in very open areas and can also fly very long distances across the islands of Antarctica, all the way to Argentina and Australia. Who would have known? Hey there. It's good to see you. It's been a while since I've seen you, friend. So, one thing that's very interesting about this film is that we actually discovered we cannot film underwater. So, we thought, you know what's very interesting? Coral reefs, the Pacific Ocean, the Southern Pacific that merges into the Southern Ocean? Huh. I wonder about that. So, the really interesting thing about that is that we did not get to film Chuck Greene underwater, and that's why Ben Nussey is playing Chuck Greene, because our original actor drowned, tragically. So, right here, we still have some information to talk to you about, which is the flatfish, which is a bottom-feeding animal, which is nearly the exact color of the sand. It has a variety of spotting, which will allow it to not be eaten by many of the surrounding predators. So it will feed on algae, and it really, it survives well. It's good at what it does. But then there's also coral and anemones, which have such a venom to detract animals that they don't want, and have some that can coexist with them and live inside of them, which is kind of awkward, but you know, they want it. And then, oh, and they also reproduce in a very interesting way. It kind of like floats off. I won't go into it, but coral, I love coral. Stop killing the corals. They don't want to be bleached. It's not very kind to them. But the hammerhead shark, have you ever looked at a hammerhead shark and thought, why? So the reason is, it actually has very sensitive, like, brain activity in there. So it can balance very well, and it can detect some of those fish that you didn't really think would get eaten before, like the flatfish. So they can sense the movement in the water very easily and be able to feed on some of those. And it can also dive down and pin some of those down with its very flat head. So it's very unique. And many of these have such adaptations of hydrodynamics, which the fins are in perfect shapes just to survive in their oceanic environment. Now there's also the Notothiniode, which is an Antarctic fish. So it can swim under like the shelves of ice, and this one I really loved, and I really wish that we could have gotten to talk about more, because it has extreme like levels of glycoprotein and hemoglobin, which can serve as an antifreeze in their bloodstream and allow them to be some of the only fish that can survive in such large masses under the Antarctic peninsulas and regions of ice. Then they also have ways to control their buoyancy and with large deposits of fats and lipids. So, I hope you enjoyed our segment on the Southern Pacific. See you next time on Chuck Greene, 105 West, the documentary.